First, I want to thank you for this opportunity to watch this video. We have to be creative in what we do during these weird times that we're facing. And what I wanted to do was, instead of having that face-to-face, what I wanted to do was do something via mobile. It's going to be about a 10-minute video. Okay, so for the filtration of this, basically we have 4 lines of defense. 90% of the time when we have an issue that comes in with a sprayer, what we have is it's going to be plugged somewhere. So it's going to be a lack of cleaning, and it's going to be a lack of the precautionary steps that we can take to make sure that nothing bad goes into the system before we spray it out. So the first line of defense, anytime we pour any chemical into this sprayer, we always want to make sure that the strainer is in place, and we always pour through the strainer. And that's going to alleviate about 80% of our problems. If anything were to get past that, the pickup line comes from the bottom of the tank, and it comes through this fitting that's on top of the tank. And what we have here is we actually have 3 different filter sizes that you can use. This is included with your sprayer. I also have a blue mesh that is the standard mesh, which is inside of that fitting. And what we want to do is, in between every tank, when you're out spraying, is pop this out, rinse this out very good, put it back in. If anything were to get past this strainer, which is a large mesh, the pickup line, which is a little bit smaller mesh, now we have another fail-safe, which is going to be right down below this gray canister that's right here. This does not need to be cleaned out during every spray. What you want to do is periodically, maybe once a month, go through there and unscrew this. You want to release the pressure on the bottom, let it drain out, and then it has an O-ring. We're going to take this off. There's actually 4 different sizes that are available for this. So for our plumbing portion, the valve assemblies that are on the back, you can see this yellow valve that's right here. What we do is we regulate what the pressure and the bypass should be with this valve and with your agitation bypass over on this side. What we do is we set this when we're doing our calibration, and then you have each individual boom on the top. And what we do is we regulate to make sure that the same rate is all the way across all 3 booms. So if I were to, for instance, spray with only 2 booms, I want to make sure that that rate and that pressure is going to be the same or very similar to where if I sprayed with all 3. So again, we don't want you to mess with these. Here, these 3, or the one that's on this side. If you do have any issues with pressure or calibration, obviously we're very willing to come out or call us, or we're going to walk you through it. You'll see that right here is the flow meter. Obviously that's going to give you a rate up front on the accelerate screen. The red tube that's down on the bottom is for the analog pressure gauge. We're going to use that for calibration. Once we're done with that, everything is going to be controlled electronically, and it'll read your rate and your pressure, again, up front on your accelerate screen, which we'll show you in a later video. Another little trick here on this red tube. Sometimes, because that's going to read pressure from the tank itself, what will happen is, depending on the product that you're spraying, it can get some material up in there. There's a Chinese finger trap type deal that's up inside of here. And then on the back side of the analog pressure gauge that's on the dash, we're going to press the fitting in and then pull the tube out on both ends. If you have a bicycle pump, or I'm sorry, if you have a sports ball needle, a basketball needle, put it on the end of your compressor. You're going to disconnect on both ends again, insert on the one side, and periodically, once a month, whatever it may be, blow that thing out. And what you'll see. So for the actual turret assemblies on the nozzle, these should be cleaned out as well. I've got one that's fully put together, and then I have one that I disassembled, just so I can show you the difference. There are other options available. You can go to a 4 or a 5 turret assembly, which some guys do. Some guys like to use a lot of different nozzles. What's nice about this is you can create any spray or any nozzle that you want on this sprayer. But there are some maintenance practices that you still need to do in these. A lot of times guys forget about this. When they're cleaning the sprayer, they'll go through everything, they'll get it cleaned out, but during the winter time, when you tear this thing down, I do recommend that you take this snap ring off, and this whole turret assembly pops off, and then there's two O-rings that are inside of here that we want to put some Vaseline or some lubricant on there, because what will happen is these have detents to them for each position, and what will happen is if you don't clean them out and keep them lubricated, you won't be able to find that correct detent, and you're going to have some efficiency problems. And then along with that, there's a check valve that's on the back side. So if you turn your nozzles off and you get some drip, what's happening is the check valve that's on the back side of the turret itself, you should change that when you change your nozzles. So if you change your nozzles every year, spend the extra $5 or $6 per turret assembly, and let's go ahead and change these as well. What it is, just a little spring-loaded check valve. I would recommend with your sprayer that you use a 10 PSI. And again, you can lubricate this as well. You could pop that off throughout the season, check them, make sure they work, clean them out. And again, put some lubricant on there so it's able to move in and out. Putting the thing back on is just as easy as taking it off. You're going to slide it down and over top. Slide it all the way in. There's really only one way it can go. Put the snap ring back across the top, and now we're locked in, and now it hit that detent, so you can see that now it's ready to spray. And obviously we want the color nozzles to match all the way across. They're all enclosed inside of this truss boom, so if you hit a tree, which nobody ever does, what it'll do is it'll break away, but these are going to be protected. So these booms are going to break away front to back, and then you can also see on here, for certain shops where they cannot take the sprayer in with the booms all the way up, what you could do is you could take it to about 45 degrees and you could fold it forward so you can get it inside of a tighter spot, if you will. So along with our 300-gallon spray tank, you're also going to have a 30-gallon spray tank that's on the back side, and this is going to be fresh water only. At the beginning of the day, what I want you to do is fill this thing up with 30 gallons of water. There's a separate pump switch that works with just this clean rinse tank, and what it does is it pulls that water out, it splits into the top of the tank, as you can see, and then there are fire suppression nozzles that are on the top side of the tank on both ends, and what it does is it's going to turn on and it's going to wash the inside of the tank, rinse down the sides. You'll press that 3 separate times. Each time you press it, it's going to pump 10 gallons of water from the fresh tank through the fire suppression nozzles into the bottom. Then we're going to spray it out through our booms, do it 3 times, and you're triple rinsed. Please don't stop there. Put another 50 gallons of water inside of the tank itself. Spray about 25 out. Now I have 25 in the tank, so the next time I get it out to spray, I can kick everything on to make sure everything is working properly. The booms, nothing's clogged, before I put any chemical into the sprayer itself. The next part is going to be the foamer. So the foamer tank is on the side. It's pretty straightforward. You've got a pressure line, you've got the water line that comes through. Pressure relieve is going to be on the top. You'll pull that, relieve the pressure. There's actually a filter that's inside of here. And what you can do is you can keep this rinsed out as well. So to pick up right where we left off on the back side, on the front side up on the dash of the sprayer, the first one is going to be for your clean rinse tank. If I push it in on the top, it'll lock in and run. It'll run 10 gallons and shut off by itself. Or if you need to manually do it, if you hold it on the bottom, it'll turn the pump on for the clean rinse tank. Again, washing down the inside of the tank. Second switch is going to be your foamer. Kick on the main foamer, and it's going to be turning on both sides when this is in the middle position. It's like a turn signal. Now, if I want to go to the right side, obviously it's going to be just turning on the right. All the way down would be just the left side foamer, so you don't have to foam both sides at all times. If you would like, the middle is going to be foaming both sides at all times. Shutting it back off is here. It has an auto and a manual switch. When we're spraying normally, we want to make sure that this is in auto. We can go to manual if you just want to go to a pressure-based spray, or if you're having problems with the screen, we can go to a manual and increase and decrease the pressure using this. Again, once we're in auto, this pressure gauge you're going to kind of forget about, and all of the pressure is going to be read right off of the screen itself. On the back side of this is going to be that other end of that red line that we had talked about, where you pop that off and you can blow it out. The next part of the control panel is going to be the actual armrest itself. As you can see, everything is right here at the fingertips. So I have a left, center, and a right boom individually. The master boom switch has been moved right here to my thumb. We no longer have that foot pedal switch. To raise and lower your booms, it's going to be electric over hydraulic, so it's going to be much more responsive than what you're used to. The actual pump switch and the agitation switch. When you get down to about 30 gallons, when the spray tank on the back, when it gets down to about 30 gallons, shut the agitation off and let the slosh of the tank work your agitation, so we don't have any foaming or frothiness, so you can spray it all the way out. And you could actually, and almost recommend, leaving the boom, or the pump I should say, on at all times when you spray. Leave it on even when it's empty in between tanks. Come in and leave this on, fill it back up, and what it does is going to help this thing stay primed better for you. Although it's going to run all the way out, take all the chemical out of the tank, it's going to prime quicker for you the next time. The next part of the foamer, what I want to do is I want to close this all the way down and then just barely crack it open, and that should be the correct amount for your foam. If I open it all the way up, you'll see that definite line going down your fairway of the foam marker. So the nice thing is it's right here at your fingertips. You can adjust this on the fly. So another great update to this sprayer is we've moved to a 6 diaphragm pump. With the 6 diaphragm, what we've done is we've taken that pulsation out of the sprayer of a dual diaphragm pump. The dual diaphragm had a lot of pulsation to it. So what we did was we added 4 more, reduced that pulsation. We're able to have the pressure and the flow for any spray, knock on wood, that you may be trying to perform. It does have a grease fitting right in the middle. You do want to grease that thing. Keep it greased at about, every 50 hours, and what it does is it's going to grease all the way through and on the back side, but it's never going to get into the sump. It's never going to get into the product portion of the sprayer itself. The actual operation screen of this. So again, we're going to kind of get rid of that dialog pressure gauge, and we're going to read everything right off of the screen here. And this is going to give you, at any given point, you can glance down, you can see how fast we're going, you can see the target rate, and then this is going to read out what your actual rate is. And then again, your PSI is going to be read electronically right here, and this is going to tell you how many gallons are in the tank. So at the beginning of the spray, we can actually go in here and enter 300 gallons, and this thing will tick down the gallonage as you spray it out. Now the buttons on the bottom, I tell everybody I treat this like a warehouse. So it's a big building, and I'm going to walk in the main door. I'm going to press and hold, and you'll see that door. It's going to open up. It takes you to the main menu, and then as I go down through all of these settings, to enter a room, I'm going to use the right button. So for example, go into set rates, active rate, it'll tell you. So it's got rate 1 and rate 2. These are what your rates are for rate 1 and rate 2. The boost percentage, I want to go through personally with you. At this point, we're not going to worry about it, but it is an option where we can increase on the fly. We can increase the rate. Now, since this is a big warehouse and I walked into the room where you set the rates, I want to go back out in the hallway. I'm going to close that door. I'm going to go down to the settings. In the settings, I'm going to open that door. This is where you would put the volume of the tank. So to increase it, you're going to press and hold, and you can see it's going to jump 10 gallons at a time. If I press it individually, it's going to be 1 at a time. Low limit, so it's giving you that alarm that'll beep at you. It's turned off. A lot of times it's annoying to guys. And then the preset agitation is 40%. So 40% of your spray is going to be what the agitation is on this sprayer. Again, I can back out of this room. I can walk to the next room. I can see my display. And this is where I pick the units. Right now, gallons per acre. We can change that to turf. It's gallons per thousand or liters per hectare. You're not going to do that. That's for across the pond. But for now, I'm going to go back to US, gallons per acre. You can mess with people, change the settings, language, pen settings. You can protect the menu so nobody can go in here and change anything. What's nice about that is nobody can mess with the rates. I know that a couple guys are going to be on this sprayer, but just in case somebody else were to jump on, they can't screw anything up. Backing out of that room, boom width, walk in. Again, since we added the fourth nozzle to the middle, you'll see it's 80, 80, 80, 20-inch center. Reset defaults, you're not going to need to do that. What we've done is all the calibration, but if you were to have issues moving forward and we wanted to recalibrate, you could start here and then we'll go through the calibration process and we'll adjust some numbers. GeoLink is not on this, so we're not going to install the GeoLink, obviously. We'll back out of that room. Calibration. For this video, I'm not going to include the calibration because it's going to be a longer process, but rest assured, peace of mind, the calibration process on this is so easy. What you're going to do, I'll just show you a few steps. You go to the calibration, you're going to start with the flow, and you're going to catch and walk you right through the steps, and it'll actually have you pick the nozzle color, and it'll tell you to catch for a certain amount of seconds. Once you know that that is correct, you'll hit another step. It'll run for 3 minutes and do all the calculations in the flow meter, and you're ready to spray. Anytime you change nozzles, we're going to want to go through that. Next one is going to be the speed. You're going to do a calibration of the speed test. You're going to mark 500 feet. Put your front wheel on your mark. Start it in the beginning, and then stop it at your second mark. Again, it'll do the calibration. It'll walk through, and it'll be set for you. Beginning of the day, I do like to come into the test speed, and this is where you can be spraying sitting still. So I would go into the speed, and I would increase this. Let's say we're going to spray fairways at 5.5 miles an hour. I'm going to bump this up. I'm going to turn it on. So set the parking brake, and now this thing thinks it's moving at 5.5 miles an hour. Pump on, agitation on. This is where you can turn the sprayer on, make sure all the nozzles are operating correctly, make sure there's no plugs, make sure this thing is running correctly before we actually go out and spray without putting any chemical in here. So I'm going to back out of that, turned it back off. I'm going to back out of that room. I'm going to back out of that room. Service, it's going to do a countdown for you. You can reset it. Diagnostics is for the service, obviously. And the about, anytime you call for parts or anything, you can go to this about menu, and the model and the serial number is going to be right there for you.